headquarters of common sense.
Talk Radio.
Simon, if you can get away with not smacking a kid, that's a good thing, right?
So the important thing we're talking about here is criminalising parents. I mean, we can have a discussion about whether you should or shouldn't smack your kids. Evidence shows that good parents use a range of options. Some parents decide that with their own children, typically when they're toddlers, that the occasional tap on the back of the hand is a useful thing to do. The idea that you're going to make that criminal, that's what people find outrageous. The Welsh Government did its own polling and it found that support for its ban on smacking fell from 46% to 38%. So they can't even get popular support for it in Wales, and with good reason. Good parents know that if you criminalise people for something as trivial as smacking, you're just going to wreck families and you're going to wreck children's upbringing. That's not doing them any good whatsoever. And you're also going to distract police and social workers from trying to identify those children who really are being abused.
Sue Atkins, I mean, fair point, isn't it, as Simon has put it there? I mean, do we really want to criminalise someone for a tap on the back of a hand?
Well, I think that sort of argument is rather strange. You go to the extremes of this. It's about a mindset around positive parenting. I mean, and it's around raising happy children that have firm, fair and consistent boundaries. But we also know that, there was a study in Texas, in the University of Texas, for 50 years, 160,000 families were researched and looked at, and they discovered that smacking doesn't work. It damages the relationship between a parent. They're the main person that you trust, that you love, you want guidance from, and they smack you. And, if parents start smacking their kids when they're toddlers, where do you stop when they're 16, taller than you, and say, well, that didn't hurt? There are so many other ways to raise a happy, confident child with self-regulation. You don't have to smack them.
But isn't most people's experience, Sue, wouldn't it be that, I wasn't beaten, but I got the odd smack and that actually was enough to stop me doing something again? Or sometimes the smack happened because I was in danger, or all of those stories you will have heard. That's the common story, isn't it? That it didn't do me any harm. That's what most people will tell you.
And if I had £1 for every time someone said that to me when I've been
Maybe they're right. Maybe they're right.
Well, then I'd have a pair of Jimmy Choo shoes. But it's not about that. It's a mindset. You see, what happens is it gets passed down the generations. We evolve. We get better at doing things. In the Victorian times, you took a slipper or you took your belt to a child to discipline them. In school, they used to do the same thing. Let me just say this. When a child hits a child, we call it aggression. When a child hits an adult, we would call that hostility. If an adult hit another adult in the pub or out in the street, we'd call that assault. So why is it?
I've got to intervene at this point. There's just an outrageous line of argument.
Well,
if an adult took another adult's mobile phone off them, that would be wrong. If an adult forced another adult to get into a car, if an adult made an adult sit on the naughty step or told them to go to their room, you wouldn't do any of those things to adults because they're adults. But with children, because you have responsibility for your children, you also have to have certain rights to be able to make them do certain things. You do it because you love them. They know that you love them. Yes, that's right. And that's why parents will use something like a tap on the back of the hand.
But it's not always that, is it? It's not a tap. Sometimes in anger, people hurt their children. And I tell you something, they never remember.
And let's be clear about what the law does and doesn't allow. No, hang on. I'm not going to let you get away with mixing up a tap on the back of the hand with walloping a kid. That's an outrageous slur on lots of good parents out there watching this and listening to this. No, the current law says that if a parent does anything which leaves anything more than transient reddening of the skin, that's unreasonable chastisement. Unreasonable chastisement is already against the law, but it's very clear in Wales that a mum who uses a tap on the back of the hand, in fact, the Welsh Government leaflets say you can't even make a list of what's covered because it's so wide. They say dial 999 if you see a parent smacking their child. They say the parent could get a criminal record. The discussion is not whether you or I approve or disapprove of smacking. I don't think all parents should use smacking. That's not my position. My position is you shouldn't make criminals out of parents for smacking. That's a terrible idea.
Is that not fair, Sue?
What is the debate actually about here? It's looking at alternatives to raising children with that mindset that it's okay to smack them. That was the debate. That was what we were discussing. Why is it that 60 other countries around the world have banned smacking, but we seem to think it's a
because they haven't criminalised it? look at the 60 other countries. Most of them have not made a criminal offence out of it. They've often made laws which are purely symbolic, no enforcement mechanism. In Wales and in Scotland, the governments have urged you to dial 999. That's what we're talking about here. That's the question. Should England go down the same route and have people dialing 999 on a mum for tapping her tot on the back of their hand?
Yep, it's an extreme position, but it's about the mindset.
Would you do that, Sue? Would you ring the police if you saw a parent tap a child on the back of the hand?
No, of course not. But then it's about balance. But this is the discussion about trying to raise children without hurting them, to guide them, nurture them and teach them. They need firm, fair and persistent boundaries. They push your buttons, and parents, this is a conversation to educate and help parents not resort to smacking them or tapping them if they lack the skills to guide them.
And you can do that all day long without criminalising parents. But, parents say things that hurt their children's feelings, sometimes rightly, often wrongly, but they do. But we're not going to criminalise that. And, parents have to be able to make their own judgments about whether an occasional tap on the bum is a right way to, help bring up their own toddlers or whatever.
What is your view on it's not just a tap?
The idea that you're going to criminalise that is what people can't.
Go on, Sue. You wanted to put a question to Simon.
Thanks very much for inviting me on so I can't speak. What is the point of then, you tap and then you tap again and you constantly tap? That isn't the right way to raise a happy, confident child, is it?
I don't understand this. You tell a child and you tell them again and you tell them and you tell them. Is that all we're talking about? You're repeating something?
But that's lack of parental skills, isn't it? It's about connection. It's not about building walls between you and your child.
I agree with that. Bridging. But just the fact that something is repeated doesn't make it inherently bad. You may repeatedly use the naughty step or whatever the latest kind of fashionable kind of idea is.
What does a child remember? The incident of what they did wrong or the fact that they were smacked? And what do they learn?
I think what children learn is they learn that their parents care about them. They learn that some things are wrong or dangerous. Yeah, because the thing is, you're laughing. You've got loads of people listening to this debate, and they were smacked by their parents. They weren't beaten. They weren't abused, and they know that their parents loved them. And they know that they learned lessons for it. And you're defending a criminal law which would have made their parents. You're defending a criminal law which would have made their parents into criminals. That's what's indefensible. Tell me you don't like smacking. Tell me why people shouldn't do it. That's fine. But don't make criminals out of people who take a different view from you.
Sue?
I'm afraid it goes in circles. I'm just here to help parents raise happy, confident children without smacking them. And I'm not happy that you think it's sorry.
I was about to say, Sue, most parents would aspire to that, wouldn't they, ideally?
Yes, and it's not about finger pointing them, it's about guiding them. And this whole debate then is at least raising awareness about there are alternatives that are not flaky, they're not permissive, to think about, raising a happy child without tapping them on the hand, or it escalates when they don't listen, they jump on the sofa again and you smack them again, or you tap them again. This isn't really what I wanted to talk about. I just feel that there are better ways to raise a happy child.
Sue, were you smacked as a child, Sue?
No, I wasn't, and I didn't smack my children either. But they've turned out okay. But I understand that you're going on about the going to prison business. I mean, how would that be serving anybody if it gets to that stage where you would be sending?
Well, you better tell the Welsh government, because they're saying in terms you could get a criminal record.
Yes. So could I ask you then, what are your alternatives to that then? What do you suggest?
Well, I want to say I agree with you that. There are alternatives. Of course there are. And my point is this: good parents use a range of options with their children. And many good parents in Britain today decide at some point, perhaps with a toddler, perhaps who's repeatedly been told not to yank at electrical cables when they go to other people's homes. They haven't understood it. They haven't remembered it. So the parent will tap their hand and it will remind them and it will teach them not to do it until they're old enough to understand why.
Just a final question then, Sue. What would you do to somebody then who chastises their child physically with a smack on the hand or the leg occasionally? What is your response to that? You don't want to criminalise them, you say?
No, You don't want to criminalise parents. You want to help them raise happy, confident kids. I'm not political. I don't understand the implications, really, of who would actually go and report people. People usually don't want to do that kind of thing. But surely it's about educating, helping, supporting parents living under, we're all living under difficult circumstances, a pandemic, and then all the other stresses and the worries about food and about bills. So I just wondered what would be
and
the
on top of
alternative.
that, they're making it a criminal offence to smack your child. It's
So
just
you have
crazy.
the last word.
So you don't. All right, you can have the last word then. So you don't support the criminal offence element.
I'm not happy with that. I don't know how many people would do that, but I think the important part of this is to raise the debate, to actually support parents so that they don't smack their children.
All right, Sue. Okay, got it. Sue Atkins, thank you. Former Deputy Head Teacher Parenting Expert. Simon Calvert was the other voice you heard there, spokesperson for the Be Reasonable campaign.
Good talk.
Hot talk. Bold talk. Talk radio.
Listen on your smart speaker.
Watch it live on your smart TV.
The world headquarters of common sense.
Talk Radio.